Production cart for a cinematographer or a photographer is a very important tool because it allows you to bring your gear with you around easily and to have that option of experimenting because you simply can carry more things. So when I was looking into it, I decided to build it because I didn't want to spend 2 or 4 grand into buying a production commercial one, and also to show the younger artists that you can actually build something that works and that you don't have to spend so much money, because that becomes sometimes an excuse for us to be lazy and don't go out and create. Instead, in this video, I'm going to show you how to build this card, of which you are seeing the final version in this first part of the video. Go step by step, and then at the end of the video you will see how it's loaded and the options that it has. It's a tool that will change as I keep using it on my photo shoots and cinematography shoots, and will be customized even further along the line. So enjoy this video. If you like this video, like it, and leave me a comment and subscribe to the channel. And although it's a long one because there is a lot of details of how this is being done, I hope you will enjoy it. Thank you for watching.
And so there it is. This is the card I decided to settle for. It is an Husky 2-shelf utility cart and is essentially $150 in Home Depot. But I actually managed to find this online on Facebook Marketplace for $100. All right, so how about we open it? Let's have a look. There it is. Oh. Okay, it's pretty stuck in here. I'll have to put it on the ground, make sure I can do this easily. Opa. Okay, first impression, it doesn't seem too big. It feels actually a pretty good size. I think it would be pretty good for the bags. It does feel nice, actually seems pretty sturdy, definitely not flexing. Decent. Yeah, you can see it is all the reinforced structure under there. That's basically, those lines are all to aid the strength so that it doesn't flex. And then we have the legs here, pretty solid actually. These are pretty chunky. I actually like the finish. I think this is gonna look very good, and it's very thick. You can see how thick this is, so it means that when we put the holes through this for the accessories, it's gonna be pretty strong, and I think will be very good. Now, these are the wheels that come with it. Let me open that. By the way, this is my Leatherman Wave Plus. You can see that I'm using for cutting the plastic off. Essentially is my carry-on pocket, but not so pocket knife. It's something that I've had with me for many years. It's something that I never leave at home. It's always with me. It's a bunch of things, but essentially, especially if you are into filmmaking and you deal with gear all the time, or you know, like you like to build things and be around manual work, this is super good. It's small, but it's not too small, and it's not too big either. It fits almost nicely into a jeans pocket, and it's something that I'll never leave at home. I'll show you to the camera. Now, it's not that bad, but it's definitely not chunky enough for what we need to do. And I mean, like, this cart is rated at 500 pounds, which is quite a bit of load, but this is not enough. Now let's compare this to the other ones that I bought. And there you go. This is the wheel that I bought, and this is the one that comes with it. You can definitely see the massive difference, and this will ensure a very safe and smooth rolling of the cart, also through off-road uneven terrain. You know, if you have to go on sidewalks and there is no ramps and you have to step with the cart on it, or if you are in a park or things like that, this can go anywhere. All right, so for the time being, I'm just gonna put this on the way it's supposed to, and then essentially I'm just gonna see what needs to be updated in terms of bolts and nuts. I do want to use all stainless steel bolts, as I said, so we're gonna have to see. Okay, so let me give you some details of this. So let's see a couple of details here. Very interesting how this is built. So there is an inset here where the foot obviously slides into, which is pretty good. And then there is another basically piece that is hanging, and there is this pattern there. So I think that's what makes this connection very sturdy, because essentially this sets in place in there and is not gonna move. So sorry, one-handed is not quite best, but you see, so that's how it's done. Now potentially I could modify that so that I can use some sort of latches and latch it in place, so this could become collapsible, but right now it's not. But we'll see how it goes. So now I have to put the bolts here. Some people online complain on the difficulty of putting these bolts. I honestly don't see it. Yeah, this one is a little bit tight, so you might want to use a small wrench, but it should be very quick. Okay, so I was doing a test to see how the Pelican case, this is a 1650 if I remember correctly, fits in there. And you can see that on the bottom there is no problem, but the annoying thing is that this will not fit vertically because the height does not allow for it. So essentially it will hit just a little bit on the bottom of the cart. This is the kind of thing that, you know, happens when you build something custom. There's no way around it, and in any case I can just put it down like this. It is a fairly heavy case, this one. There is a lot of camera rig gear, slides and shoulder mounts, all that kind of stuff, so it is pretty heavy. But it would have been better if I could have put that vertically, just in the interest of saving space. Anyway, so that's just one thing. And most of my other gear is in bags anyway, as you can see there. So not too big of a deal. I do have a traveling case that I bring that can also go on top of that. The good thing of the Pelican case is that it's hard enough, rigid enough, so you can put other stuff on it. It doesn't really matter. Okay, this is not bolted in, it's just sort of like put there as a test. The interesting thing is that the bolts that hold the feet also hold the caster wheel. So because I have the bigger ones, I will have to figure out another way of doing that, so that I can bolt all of them in. And probably the width of the wheel is also different in terms of this sort of connection here, this spacing. And so that's the first problem that we have to solve. But in the meanwhile, this is going to look pretty sweet, I think. All right, let me show you the problem that we have. That's where you need to be a little bit inventive. So this is the holes, these are the holes for the wheel. So you see that the wheel essentially goes into this section here, and the holes are marked, and there is this round reinforcement as well that serves basically as a strengthening factor for the wheels. Now, the big wheels that I bought do not obviously match these at all. Well, we could make work two of the holes on this side, but I have to essentially cut a little bit of that corner so that the wheel can go right there. You can see it. It will be basically just enough that the wheel doesn't go out too much, or maybe it doesn't really matter, and I could even use the square sides to get the wheel in there. So I could just do that. It should be pretty good, and it should match good enough with the holes there. Actually, now that I'm seeing it, it does look like I can only do like that. So we'll have to basically cut a little bit of the plastic there just here, so that this can go down. And then the other problem is that on this side here, there is nothing. You can see that even once the wheel goes down, there is nothing supporting that wheel, and that's a problem because that wheel is going to have a lot of pressure on it, so definitely it needs a little bit of strengthening. So you can see that here there is a fair amount of structure, and this is a solid piece. So what we can do here to solve this problem is essentially create a little bit of a spacer, and the spacer will have to be basically maybe other washers or a section of a tube or something like that, something that has a fair amount of strength to support this, and it should be good. I'm gonna grind that side so that I can put essentially the wheel in there and see how that works. The other thing that I didn't show you is that on the other side, for the swiveling wheels, there is also these two tabs here that center the wheel to this area. So these will have to go because they're gonna basically hit against the bigger wheel. So we cannot use those. So there is a little bit of cutting to do and a little bit of conforming to do, but after it should be pretty good. So as you can see there, I've marked on both sides where the cut needs to be, and I'm gonna cut straight through there until basically the wheel clears. There we go. That's pretty good. So now the wheel has still a solid base. I can still pull the two bolts in there, and I just have to essentially create the space here between this side and the wheel and fill it with some washers or maybe a couple of bolts just right in there, and should be plenty strong enough. So I'm just gonna do the other side as well, and that should be pretty good. So here I can probably go a little bit inward, a little bit more, it feels like. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make the other two holes on the other side. Alright, so as you can see, I marked the holes there. I marked where the holes will need to be. Here everything is good. I'm checking also the swiveling lights, everything is good, you can see there. Now this bolt that comes with the cart is too small for these wheels. It barely fits in there, like it will get loose very quickly, so I need probably an M10, and I'm gonna just go and get some of these and replace all of these with stainless steel and some chunky washers to put on the other side. You can see here how the holes are marked there, and then all this stuff here I'm gonna have to clean it up with the rotary tool, including this edge here. I'm gonna make it smooth and nice so that it doesn't look like it's an artificial thing. Alright, so here you can see about all the hardware in Home Depot, and I did not go for stainless steel because there is a lot to buy and it would have cost me probably over $100, maybe $100 or something in stainless steel. I have to see if I can find some place cheaper for that. But essentially I bought washer bolts and uh, nuts there, and I use this as well for spacers. So I'm gonna put a couple of nuts in there to create space where the wheel needs to go. So that said, I'm gonna finish up the other corners, cutting the space for the bigger wheel, and then I'm gonna bolt them on, and then we should be good with this part. In order to refine the corners, I'm gonna use this rotary tool. This is battery powered. I love this because it's so handy and light and you can work everywhere. And I'm gonna refine the corners there to make it look basically stock. In the limits of what is possible here. I don't really care to have it too perfect. I mean, this is gonna be beaten around, this thing, but it's nice to sort of like refine and make a good work with it. I also already cut the pins where essentially the caster were fixed in place. So there are some leftovers here, but those are already done. So I'm just gonna proceed and cut the other corners. I already marked all of them so that I can cut them. And I'm just gonna go ahead and go for it. Oops, there is no battery because I put it on charge. I need to add the battery, ding dong. And look at this magic. This is a 2 ampere hour battery. This is what powers that tool, and it's a super strong battery. I love that you can just plug it in the USB-C charger and it becomes just another USB-C device. I'm gonna have a video on the USB-C handy charging stuff because it's really a game changer for me and something that I spent years looking forward to. Anyway, I'm just gonna refine here. There we go. It's not perfect, it's a little bit slanted, it will need a little bit further refinement, but it's okay for now. I can also refine it later. I just want to have everything put together before I go into much into the details. In general, that's how I like to work. The broad shapes first and then the details after. And that should be pretty good. Okay. All right, so now I'm gonna take my rotary tool and do a little bit of cleaning and clean up. All right, there we go. So now everything is good. The other thing we need to do now is make the new holes and enlarge the existing ones. So I'm gonna pick up the bits and the drill and do it. When you work with plastic, it goes everywhere, especially with rotary tools. I mean, I'm not really dressed up to work really on this stuff, but I don't really care. Okay, so that's the first hole. Let's see, it's still too small, so probably I need a bigger big drill bit. So I'm gonna get a bigger one, drill bit. Let's see how it goes. And we also want to make sure to drill straight. And this is perfect. So 3/8 will do just fine. I don't want to have too much movement in this bolt, for this bolt, so I want it to be snug. So I think that's about perfect. All right. I don't really have to actually make all of them bigger because only 2 of these will be used by the new wheels, and the other 2 will need to be there. We have to make the new holes. So in order for this to happen smoothly, I'm gonna use a punch and make a pre-drill in there so that I can guide the drill bit, and probably because it's plastic I don't even need the pilot hole, which is just a smaller hole that you do before the heavy one. The bigger one is probably unnecessary. Now, another reason why you would want to make a smaller hole first is to check that the hole is centered. You still have a little bit of leeway to adjust that in case you did it wrong. Okay, so this just basically makes a little mark in the plastic so that the drill bit doesn't move around. So I'm gonna actually do the pilot hole first to make sure that the hole markings are correct. I'm gonna use a very tiny drill bit for that. It's better to spend extra time to double check these things than having a problem afterwards. Okay, so now I'm gonna put the wheel here, and if everything is good, once I align the bigger holes, which are perfect there, right there. Okay, now I should see my holes. Yeah, and they are fine. Especially this one is better. This one could be a little bit more on the left. So I'm gonna sort of punch it a little bit further away, like that. And just make the hole more on the left. And once that's done, I'm gonna do the proper hole. There we go. And then I'm gonna check that everything is fine. And there we go, perfect. So the holes are great. You can see the bolt goes right through. And that should be pretty good. Now, one thing that looks like is that these bolts are too short, which is surprising. So I'm gonna have to see if I have to change them. Oh, that's why. So the reason is that in the center here, sorry, in the inside, there is a little ledge of a couple of millimeters. And so this bolt is just barely going out, and I'm not sure that would be long enough for this, which is really annoying. No, definitely not long enough. So I'm gonna have to get a little bit of a longer bolt, unfortunately, from the outside. It's not a big deal. The other thing that I want to also check at this point is how much of a compensation I need to do in terms of adding a bolt here. Okay, so the first obstacle is that there is not a lot of space for a washer, so that's a problem. So I will have to use the nut. You can see that one nut is not quite enough. So I'm probably gonna have to use 2 per side. All right. Let's see. So 2 is gonna be too much. So we'll be barely working. Because we want the wheels to be as straight as possible, and these are not like that. So I need 2 washers probably, and a nut in there. So it will be something like that. And now the problem is that there is this piece here that is in the way of the washer, so I'll probably need to cut that off. Now on this side you can see that I've already screwed the wheels on, and on the bottom, in order to have a flat mounting surface, I have essentially used another nut with a couple of washers, but then I've decided that instead of using the nut I'm gonna use full washers, so that it's even more essentially. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit. Yeah, so you can see, not super easy to see, but you can have an idea. And there, instead of using the nut, I'm gonna use all washers so that the surface it's even a little bit flatter and stronger. So the washers only have to be on one side, and 4 washers make up for about the size of a nut. So that should be 4 washers for every nut. And when we put the screw in, now the wheel should be able to sit nicely on there. So the idea is that we want to have a surface that is strong enough to hold the weight of the wheel. I feel like I need another one here. That doesn't seem flush yet. Yeah, that's about right. So that makes it 7 washers. Okay, that looks a lot better. I think that's much better option. Okay, and then I'm gonna lock the wheel in. So here you can see what I mean. Right, you see the washers there, just to sort of like emulate what is happening here with this plastic reinforcement, but this is gonna become basically one piece of solid surface by when the wheel is pushing on it. Try not to make the bolt fall, and then we put the nut on that one side. We need the other washer on this side as well, so good grab on that. Okay, just remove and tight first. So now it's secured, I just want to make sure that is the point at least, so that's the wheel has to go there. Okay, so now, okay, so now we can bolt it on. Okay, I don't want to over tighten. There's no point. There we go. So this is all down. I think this one still could go a little bit more. little hard without being able to see. There we go. Okay, that should be good. Okay, so that's it. Basically, now this is not going anywhere. It's pretty solid and strong. Yeah, and it's not gonna break. It's not gonna go anywhere at all. So now I'm gonna do all the other wheels, and then it's gonna be good to go as far as the wheels are concerned. In the meanwhile, I'm gonna make sure to put the bolts that go under here to lock these side poles, let's call them, side structures in place. And this is just a simple Phillips screwdriver head. It is very annoying when you have mixed stuff. Like, for example, I bought these other bolts to bolt into, I'll show you after, the sides of the, again, the side structure, because now that I have different wheels, these ones are missing two possible anchoring points. So I'll show you that later. But in any case, this is annoying because now these are Phillips screwdrivers, and the ones that I bought are not. They are, what's that called? Robertson, I think it's called, the square bolt thingy that is only in Canada. And so probably if I really wanted to do this, because I'm OCD and very precise when I do this kind of stuff, I would go and replace these ones with the Robertson style as well. And in fact, I might actually have to do that just because this is gonna drive me insane, even though probably these are never gonna be bolted on or off ever again, unless I have to take this apart, which probably I won't, because it's not really meant for that kind of use. I would have to modify this in a way that allows me to take it apart. So I'm just gonna bolt these screws in there. Again, there is support plastic that allows the screws to bite properly. And I don't think this is gonna go anywhere anytime soon. That said, there is no washer here, and really the screw is the only thing blocking the base. Not the best. I would think that probably you would want a washer here just to make this a little bit more solid. Once again, I'm picking on this stuff and maybe a little bit overkill at times, but that's always been a good thing in my experience, because things happen, and when you over-engineer a little bit more, when things go sideways, it's a good safety net, let's say. Right, put this one in there too. As a matter of fact, I might actually see if I have washers for these before I go on and bolt the other ones. Alright, so I did find the washer for this. So I'm just gonna use the washers as well as the bolt, and this will give us a little bit of a better support. Oh yeah, much better. It's a little bit, there you go. Okay, so this is good. So this is solid and is in place. And then now I can turn it upside down, and there you go. Pretty solid. So yeah, I am gonna need those 3 washers, and this should be pretty good. It's actually very solid. Yeah, so this feels pretty solid. You can see it holds my weight, which is not exactly light, 78, 80 kilos, which is pretty fine. And it moves pretty good. So I think it's a pretty good success. Now I want to show you something. There is those 2 holes right there that were the holes for the older wheels, the normal wheels. And because those holes are essentially not used anymore. This structure here that goes down there, this structure, the side structure here that goes down here, it's not bolted with 4 bolts now, but only with 2. And so to prevent this to be an issue, I have gotten self-tapping bolts here that you can see here, and I'm just gonna bolt it through the plastic just as an extra sort of like prevention. All right, so now that the cart is all ready and finished structure-wise, we can start thinking about accessories and organize sort of like the few things I bought here to see what can actually work and what can make our lives a little bit easier. Lots of noise, sorry about that. Okay, so here I have a couple of straps that are good to hold the ropes or cables or wires, or even to hold the tripods together. These ones are particularly good because they are elastic, so they stretch to an extent, right? So these are pretty good to hold cables in place or to tie down the tripods onto the cart. They are a little bit small. It's 12 inches, which is not very much, it's 1 foot. So I think probably this is a return because it's too small for what I need to do. This one, or unless I use them for like power cords or things like that, these are not very expensive things, so sometimes it's worth it to actually keep it. This is the same thing, it's just different kind that opens up fully. Then I have a couple of these. These are things that usually are used in moving trucks or moving vans, and basically this is a hook, and the hook goes into this base here, into this slot, and slots in there. If I know how to do it, there you go, nice and secure. And so here you can hold stuff, so this for example could go on the side here, and the bolts would create also a reinforcement for the feet, keeping these two pieces together. And this can be used to, for example, hold another stand or a tripod or something like that. Now this is not necessarily super important, but it's actually pretty good because with this, you know, you can remove it and this becomes pretty flat. And then there are a bunch of accessories that you actually can buy of the same kind. And these are heavy duty, so this is not gonna go anywhere. Once it's bolted in, it's not gonna move and it's not gonna go anywhere. But then when you don't need the hook, you pop it out and it's done. So I think I will actually do this. I'm gonna make these ones at the very top. There is easy spot on both sides of the cart, so easy to mount, and probably it's going to be fairly leveled without even measuring, because basically it goes at the top and it uses the stop of the cart itself to be anchored down. Now the nice thing about that is that you can put these other accessories in there and they all work the same way. So you can put something like that, for example, which is a heavy-duty hook if you want to hold something in place. Just have to figure out how to use this through that, if at all possible. Yeah, it will be like this. So this becomes now an anchoring point. So this is very versatile because you can use this with many different things. And on Amazon there is all sorts of accessories as well, like for example cups that you can put in here, cup holders, you know, like all that kind of stuff. But for me, I think the most important thing is really the hook, because I need to be able to possibly strap things around. So I'm gonna make the holes for this and then sort this out. So now this works pretty well, but the screws are a little bit too long, so I will have to replace them. Again, this is inevitable when you do this kind of stuff. There is always something that doesn't work. But see that this is plenty strong, and actually it's a very good thing. Now you can see that this wobbles a little bit, and that's okay, because when you put stuff on it and you tighten it down, it's not gonna move. So that's fine. Okay, so now you can see that both mounts have been placed. Of course, I'm gonna replace the screws with shorter ones. This is way too long. And this is actually pretty good, solid. So now the thing that you need to be mindful of is if you put too many things here, obviously this is gonna tip over. So that's something you have to counterbalance with the weight on the bottom, and always remember that. But usually this is not anything that needs to be too strong. The other thing that you can replace this and mount something else, like these things, for example, and then now you can lock, for example, the cart onto a wall or something, onto something else, so it doesn't fall. So there are a lot of different options here that we can go about. Now the other thing that I bought is this. These are basically anchoring hooks, and these I wanted to put them on the bottom, on the very bottom here, on the very bottom here, so that I can potentially strap the gear down. But instead of putting it onto the actual base, I think I'm gonna put them on the outside here, because there is space, and this is actually a very thick plastic here as well, so it makes it for a very strong, secure anchoring point. Silver marker, see if this is more successful. Okay, perfect, both sides. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. All right, so the last step that we need to do here is to cut this rubberized liner, which is quite thick actually. Okay, very sharp knife. This is a very sharp knife. Always be careful when handling this stuff. You know, it's sharp when it cuts through rubber like this. Okay, that's one side. Okay, and then I'm gonna cut this side as well. We just definitely want to make sure we have enough here. Okay, so I'm gonna keep it like this. Just cut it here. So this is how I'm gonna cut this line here. There we go. Okay, so now it's easier to work with, right? Now we can sort of push it in there and cut it as needed. There we go. It's not too bad, not quite straight here on this side, but I think it's good enough. If you wanted, you could sort of like glue this on. Doesn't seem too bad. What I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna refine it a little bit with the scissors, just to get a bit of round edges. Okay, there we go. Okay, so that's the top. To clean up a little bit. And there we are. Pretty good. Could use some double-sided tape as well to hold it down. So I could probably refine it a little bit. It's not quite precise in some areas, but it doesn't really matter, guys. Like, you don't have to be so perfectionist. I used to be that perfectionist all the time in everything, but then things take forever. And ultimately, this is not really important. It's just a protection that you have when you put the gear on this one. So this one is gonna need to be cleaned because it was on the floor. So I'm just gonna use something like, I don't know, a dishwasher or something. Sorry, a dish soap, I meant, not a dishwasher, to clean this one. And I'm gonna do the bottom part as well. It just comes to my mind that I could have done this before actually setting up the cart. But it's not a big deal. This is really just square, the inside for the most part. There is just a little bit of a ledge here in these corners, but it's mostly square. So it's really like mostly cutting it to size, really. So for these, I think I'm just gonna take a couple of measurements. Okay, so I've cut the corners and reduced the size. Let's see if it works. Ah, nice. There we go. Pretty good, pretty good. I don't know what you can see from there. Let me take the camera. There we go. Pretty decent. All right, so that's the cart. So this took me way too long, and that's because in the middle of building this, I had some issues. I had to move house, blah, blah, blah. Life gets in the way. You never let it stop you from doing what you want to do, life or the people. So I think it looks pretty damn good when you put all the stuff. Nothing is gonna move. I think it looks pretty good. We have lots of options with the mounting points. We have the surface that is covered that looks actually pretty good. There's big wheels that holds all the weight that we need. There is other mounting points here for anchoring stuff or holding stuff. Secure handle here to push this around nicely. It's not flimsy, it's pretty hard. Nothing is gonna break with this. It's pretty solid. It's not gonna go anywhere. I know, I'm beating it up, but that's how you do it. You have to test it, right? This is pretty good. You can hold a lot of weight on this and even on here. So I think the project is officially done. I'm gonna load it up for you, take a video with all the gear in there, and call it a day. This is the cart. I think it looks great. I think for the price you cannot beat it. I think overall we spend $100 for the cart itself, although if you want to buy new it's gonna be more like $150, whatever. We're talking about Canadian dollars here because I'm in Canada. And probably maybe another $100 in parts, maybe a little bit more because the wheels can be expensive, maybe not over $150 anyway in parts. So this thing cost me $250. Now, is it comparable to a $4,000 cart? No, of course not, because number one is not metal, number two is not collapsible, and in general, you know, we had to do some work on it to make it work properly. But with the remaining $3,800 that we have, you know, you can buy a camera, you can buy tools that you need, you can buy lights even more, and or you can go out and shoot, invest into something that actually brings you something back, and work on your portfolio or your reel if you're doing cinematography work, right? So I'd much rather have a simpler thing that does the job and works well, even though it's not perfect and is not as refined, than something so expensive. Now there are some other carts on the market that are not that expensive, but it's the same. You're not gonna find anything that is really cheap like this, and this does all the job anyway. As a matter of fact, I found in my research that this is really customizable, and these mounts that we have added and the straps on the bottom and a lot of other things are actually very, very handy, and even more expensive carts don't have, because this comes straight from the experience of actually using a cart like this or other carts that I've used in the past, plus building stuff, especially car stuff or vehicle stuff. So it's sort of like a hybrid of knowledge in here. Now that said, I want to start loading it just as a test. I have not loaded this before, obviously, because really we just finished it today by putting the rubber liner on the top and on the bottom, and we see how it works. For now, I'm gonna leave the hooks here. There is the mounting hooks on the bottom, but I don't know if I have the straps. I have to see if I can get something maybe from the car, and I'm gonna load my gear, which is here, okay? So the first thing that I'm gonna get is like my lenses. So this is my set of Rockinon cinema lenses. I'm not gonna open it, that's for another video. And probably I'm gonna put this one on the bottom. It fits perfectly well in there and is safe and secure. I usually bring my Pelican case with me when let's say the environment is really tough, but it's right now emptied because I bought instead a bag where I have all my electrical stuff. So power suppliers, cables, the laptop can go in here, and there is also the shoulder mount, a few rods and a bunch of things to build the rigs. So this is sort of like my rig bag. I loved it. I bought it in London Drugs for $120, I think. And yeah, I bought that. And I love it because there's so many pockets everywhere. All the sides, inside. Anyway, this might need a review on its own. It's a very simple backpack, but because it's a backpack, it's also very quick to always have it with you. So it's a great thing to have. This one can go on the side here. Fits perfectly well, or I can put it on the top as well. Not a big deal. Now, depending on what kind of work I'm doing, I will definitely need my camera bag. Now, this is my cine bag, camera bag, which is basically where I keep my rig and my camera, oops, and my mat box. Essentially, this can hold the camera ready to go for the most part without the lens, because otherwise it would be too long. And here I have also my follow focus, my monitor, and a bunch of other things. So this is basically what contains my main camera gear, my exposimeter, cleaning stuff, a little bit of everything. Now, on the other spectrum, we have this bag here, which is a lower pro bag. Now here I have a bunch of expensive lenses. This is more the bag that I use for photography because these are more autofocus lenses. So if I go on a photo shoot, I can bring that. If I'm doing strictly cinematography work, I usually don't use autofocus, although this is changing rapidly, especially with the new LiDAR autofocusing system that you can adapt to all their lenses. But anyway, I can pick this one and put it down here as well. And then we have what? I have the Ronin S that I can put on the side. Doesn't quite fit here in the cart, so that might be something that needs a little bit of attention, but I can do like this and put it under here instead. Just like that. There we go. And then finally, if I'm doing some drone work or aerial work, I can put my drone here. And that's really everything. I don't usually bring more stuff. I mean, this is a lot of stuff already. Now, the cart is pretty good. Does not have any problem in moving around. The wheels turn around pretty fine. There is not a lot of stress. It is heavy. There is a lot of stuff here. Definitely heavy. So it's important that these wheels support all the weight, which is why I was so keen in changing the wheels. Okay, so it seems pretty good. Now, this is only the camera gear, but obviously when you go on a shoot, you don't bring everything like this. You can probably select some of the gear that you need for that specific shot of that specific day, depending on what you're doing, if it's a cinema set, like a cinematography set, or a photo shoot. If it's a photo shoot, I don't need most of this stuff. I only need my bag with the lenses, the autofocus lenses and the cameras, and maybe the drone. If I'm doing a cinematography work, then I'm gonna need to bring all this stuff. Now the problem is that if you bring all this camera gear, then you don't have space for the light. Doesn't matter how big the cart is, you're not gonna carry so many things, right? So you have to be smart about it. But the cart, it's useful because it allows you to bring stuff back and forth. And you can do one load with all the camera gear, unload it on location, go back, load all the lights, and come back. Now, because I have these hooks here, I can definitely put something in there, and this is not gonna tip over because there's so much weight in there. But for example, now I'm not gonna take the bigger tripod, but I'm just gonna put, for example, the Faisal tripod here, and this is what I was saying before, that I can probably put it like this because of these hooks that we have added. We'll extend the leg just to have better mounting point, and that's it. This is not gonna go anywhere. It's solid. This can also be strapped in with the straps that I bought, which are here on this other hook, so that you can keep the tripod nice and tight and close. This is actually a little bit too small for this, looks like, but I can use it in the back there, just like that, so the legs will not open. This is pretty good. And yeah, I mean, like, the hook is really handy because I can really do so much with this. And then what we can do is use the bottom anchors here. Now here, because we are using the length of the long side of the cart to really set up the gear, I think I need to use the hooks on the other side, but I have not put them on the other side here yet, which I think is something that I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna do another 2 of these and put them on one side and the other. I think it will be very, very useful so that I can strap on every corner, because right now, if I strap it this way, it's not great. But I think that's it. Otherwise, I can add some other light here. There is space. I could put the lights here. I can put them hanging if I want, or I can put them on the other side as well. Now on this side, I do not have the hooks, but clearly the hooks are for the win, so I'm gonna get 2 more of those, because right now here I only have this sort of like carabiner that you can hang things on, but it's not quite the same. So I definitely gonna get 2 more hooks so I can put all the stuff on the side as well. And for example, here I have my small rig cinema tripod, which I love. I think it's pretty good for the price. And again, like if I had the hooks, I can easily use straps to put it on the hooks like this. The hooks are plenty strong, so you can really sort of like build a little bit of a waterfall of stuff in here by using the straps. So that's a little bit of work to be refined. I have a photo shoot soon in a couple of days where I'm gonna bring the cart and I'm gonna use it and see how everything is worked out. That's really it, guys. I'm really happy with how this works, and for the price you can't go wrong, really. So get it built. Thank you for watching. I know this was a long video, but it's a build video, so has to be detailed. And let me know again in the comments below what you think. Share with your friends and hit the like button if you like it. And I'll see you in the next one.